Okay, I have now completed my border, so that's what the garter stitch border looks like. On this finished blanket you can see it just there, and what's happening up the side, because we're slipping a stitch at the end of each row, we're getting this beautiful little edge which is gorgeous on each side. It looks slightly different on each side, so don't be alarmed, but on the finished blanket you won't even notice. So continuing on, I am now ready for my setup of row 1 of the body of the blanket. So I am changing to my contrast colour, or colour B, and carrying my colour A. So the pattern says I'm to knit 6 and then place a marker. So to carry the colour A, I am just crossing that over top of colour B that I'm about to use, and I'm going to knit 6 stitches. And place a marker. So here's my stitch marker. So all I do is slide that onto the right hand needle, and that is telling me that when I reach one of those markers I need to change to just simple garter stitch, which is what we've done for the border, so that we end up with our side borders like this blanket here. See how that's garter stitch versus stocking stitch, which is the body of our blanket, which we're about to start. So the first row of stocking stitch is just a knit row once again, so we're knitting all the way across, and when we're coming back on our wrong side row we will change to purl rather than knitting, and we do that in between our 2 side borders. So I'm going to knit across until I have 6 stitches left and place my second stitch marker to mark my second side border. 2, 4, 6, 2 more stitches. Place the second stitch marker, slide it on the right needle, carry on knitting, and remember every time we get to the last stitch of every row we're going to slip that stitch so we get our lovely edge. Yarn comes around to the front, slip that stitch purlwise. Turn our work to the wrong side, and we are knitting our side borders, so we're going to knit up to our side border stitch marker. So those borders are always knit, no purl. And then we slip the marker, which means we just slide it off the left tip onto the right tip. And now we know that we're ready to change to purl, which is the body of our blanket. So purling, we take our working yarn around to the front of our work under that right hand needle. The needle goes up through the front of the stitch, and then we wrap, let's move that out of the way a bit, wrap the yarn around that top needle underneath, and then slide it back and slide the stitch off. So again, now I've already got the yarn around the front, so I don't need to move it, it's in the purl position. The right hand tip goes up through the front of that next stitch, the yarn wraps around, so over and under, and then we just pull it back and slide the new stitch off. Okay, purl again up through the front, the working yarn goes around and under, slide that needle back and the new stitch off. Okay, through the front, the yarn goes around and under, slide the new stitch off, and this is purl. So we now know how to purl. So we purl across to our next side border stitch marker. So every wrong side row is a purl row, and every right side row is a knit row in between the garter stitch borders. And of course we're changing colour every 2 rows. Sounds confusing, but it's not. it's easy when you get the hang of it. Right, so here's my stitch marker, so I'm going to slide that off from the left needle to the right and change to garter stitch, which is just knitting. So my yarn goes around underneath to the back of my work into the knit position, and I knit the last stitches, remembering when I get to my very last stitch I change the yarn position again, bring it round to the front and slip that last stitch purlwise. And you can see that that's creating this lovely edge on each side, the border of our, on the border of our blanket. So now I am ready to change colour again and do stocking stitch, which is a row of knit and a row of purl in between our borders. So I'm now going to colour A, sorry, which is our main colour. So I'm going into the first stitch, and I am making sure that colour B is coming from underneath the yarn the colour I've just used. So the yarn I've just used goes over the top, and we're pulling our new colour from underneath, which just locks that yarn into position for when we need to use it next time. So we're not having, this is called carrying our yarn up the side of our work, and away we go. So I'm on a right side row, so I'm knitting all the way across, slipping my markers as I come to them, and then coming back and doing a purl row. Okay, slipping the marker and knitting on to the last stitch, which I am slipping purlwise with the yarn in front. So bring my yarn round under to the front, slip that last stitch purlwise, turn to the wrong side, and knitting my border first, so my 6 stitches. Slipping that marker from left to right, and now I'm ready to purl again. So taking my working yarn from the front, from the back of my work around under to the front of my work and purling. So the needle goes up through the front of the stitch and into the purl position, and we're purling across. This is a wrong side row. We're purling in between the 2 side border markers to create our stocking stitch border. So stocking stitch just means a row of knit and a row of purl. Slipping that marker from left to right and changing to knit because I'm on the garter stitch border. So that means my working yarn goes around to the back of my work, and I knit to the last stitch, which is a slip stitch. So I'm on the last stitch, change my yarn position around to the front, slip that stitch purlwise. And there we go, and we are continuing that throughout our blanket. So you can see there the obvious change from the garter stitch border to the stocking stitch body of the blanket, and then I've still got garter stitch side borders as well. So we'll have a look at that more closely on our finished blanket here. Okay, so you can see there, beautiful garter stitch border, and then all this gorgeous stocking stitch body, and on the reverse side or the wrong side, that is how it looks. Okay, so that is clearly the wrong side of our work. And then on the side borders, of course, we have garter stitch and the slip stitch, which is creating that gorgeous edge. Thanks for watching.